Preparing data in ArcMap for checkout to ArcPAD. The session objectives. Enable a GPS analyst extension in ArcMap if you haven't done so already. Understand the steps that you need to do. You understand what you need to actually do to your data to get it to be ready for ArcPAD. Add GNSS data to ArcMap. Symbolize the feature classes. Turn off unnecessary fields and zoom into the area you want to collect data. So first you're going to add GNSS data to the map. You're going to click the little plus button that's next to the scale bar to add data. You're going to add data from your GNSS personal geodatabase that you've GNSS enabled. You can also add additional layers. Say that you have street center lines as a shapefile or parcels. You can add geodatabases, you can add shapefiles, raster images, SDE even. Whatever data you'd like to add, you can add it. Once you've added your data, a geographic transformation is going to come up. You're going to assign this the same one that you assigned in ArcCatalog. Then you're going to go in and symbolize features. You can symbolize features to where all of the light poles look the same, and to do that you just tap the symbol that's right below the feature name in the table of contents. Or you can also symbolize according to a different attribute type. That's kind of called theming. So say that you wanted all of your light poles to look different depending on what material it was. Or if you wanted to have, say that you were going out and flushing hydrants, and once you flushed it, you wanted them to turn green, and the ones that weren't flushed, you could have red. So you could have a little drop down that says completed or not completed, or flushed, not flushed, and then depending on what you chose, it would symbolize a different color. So you can symbolize feature classes as a single symbol for each feature class, or you can do a themed symbol for the feature class. Then you're going to go in and turn off unnecessary fields. And what that means is, out in the field, whenever you go and say that you want to collect a light pole, a form is going to pop up that has the attributes that you're going to fill in out in the field. Well, so we did light poles, so like material, height, condition, all this information. There's some stuff also that's automatically created by Esri that we have no control over. Object ID, shape. We don't have control over those, so we don't need to bring those out. And then also there's the average estimated accuracy and the worst estimated accuracy. We don't need to bring those out either. And then for lines, there's going to be shape length. And for and then for areas, there's going to be shape length and shape area you don't want to take out. So you'll uncheck any fields that you're not going to actually put data in out in the field. Then you're going to zoom into the collected area. If you have a county full of data and you're going to work in a particular area, you're going to go and zoom into that area. What the wizard for the get data for ArcPAD wizard, what it will actually do is it will clip out the area you're zoomed into. So you want to make sure that if you want background data, zoom into the area you want. If you have a blank map, if you don't have any data in it, just go ahead and put 1 to 500 in your scale bar. That way, out in the field, when you start collecting data, you'll actually see your data. It won't be on top of each other because you won't be zoomed out so far. All right, so let's go ahead and prepare our data for ArcPAD. So we're going to start up ArcMap. Let's go ahead first and create a shortcut for a desktop. If you go down to the Start button, All Programs, ArcGIS. Now we're not going to left click on it. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to right click on ArcMap, send to Desktop, Create Shortcut. And then once you do that, you'll now have an icon on your desktop. So let's go ahead and start up ArcMap. Now remember, the first thing you need to do is make sure that your GPS analyst extension is enabled. ArcMap might take a while to start up. Have some patience. It's a pretty powerful program. If you have ArcGIS 9.3 or earlier, you turn on the extension under Options extension. ArcGIS 10 and higher is under Customize extension. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close out of this, getting this introduction page, and I want to first make sure my extension is turned on. Customize extensions. If you have ArcGIS 9.3 or earlier, it's Tools extensions. Customize extensions, and then you're going to make sure that the Trimble GPS Analyst is checked. If it's not checked, go ahead and do that. Also, go ahead and check your ArcPAD Data Manager. Notice that it's up near the top. I have some extra extensions on mine. You might only have a couple listed here. Okay, so check your ArcPAD Data Manager extension as well. And then we can go ahead and close out. Okay, the next step is to add our data. So the Add Data button is that black plus that's over a yellow diamond. And once we add data, we're going to browse to where our geodatabase is. If we tap this drop down, remember we created a little shortcut to get down there, a connection. So see VBooks ArcPAD, and then you're going to see your personal geodatabase, My World. Double click on that. And now here's infrastructure. That's the feature data set that we created. If you double click on infrastructure, you're going to see all of your feature classes. You can select the top one, hold down the shift key and select the bottom one to select them all. Once again, click on the top one, move your mouse down to the bottom. Before you click on it, hold down the shift key, and then click on the bottom one while you have the shift key down, and you'll select them all. You can hit add, so go ahead and do that if you'd like to. Or, as a shortcut, if you go into your geodatabase, just click once on infrastructure and then select add, and it's going to add everything that's in your infrastructure data set. Okay, next step is to select a geographic transformation. We want to make sure that we duplicate the same one that we selected in Art Catalog. And that was a WGS 84 ITRF 00 to NAD 83 Harn. And we can go ahead and say OK. And notice we now have our 6 feature classes in our table of contents. Notice that it also went in points on top, then lines, then areas. Out in the field, you might want a particular area to be above other areas. If you want to change the order in the table of contents, make sure that you have on the very far left icon List by Drawing Order selected, and then click once to unhighlight your list, and then you can click on a particular feature and hold down the mouse button and drag it up or down if you need to change the order. There's also another layer in here that you probably haven't seen before, GNSS. This is GPS Analyst's layer that actually has the individual GPS positions you can see. I'll show that whenever we get into the GPS Analyst extension toolbar with the actual data that we collect in the field. Okay, so there were a couple things that we wanted to do once we add data. Change symbology, turn off the fields we don't need, and zoom into the area that we want to collect data in. So let's go and change symbology. For light pole, I'm just going to click once on this light pole symbol, and then symbol selector comes up. I like to use simple symbols out in the field. They show up better, I think. I'm going to use circle 1, and I'm going to make it kind of a brown color. Light poles are kind of brown generally. Okay. Colors that do not work well. The very light colors, light gray, light yellow. If you think about it, you have a white screen, so really light colors, there's not going to be much of a contrast between the white and the light colors, so you won't see it that well. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK on that brown one. Now point generic, I'm going to click on that symbol. I do all of my generics in a color. I normally do pink. And that way, if I'm out in the field and I see my pinks, I know they're point generics. I like to have point generics as a feature class, because out in the field you never know when you might run into something that you want to collect that's not necessarily in your database. Okay, I'm going to choose a circle and I'm going to make it pink. I'm going to go ahead and do OK. Now on sidewalk, click on that line, and I'm going to make this a dark gray. And then OK. Then for the line generic, click right on that symbol, and I'm going to make it pink as well. OK. And then for parking lot, click on the symbol, and I'm going to change the fill color. I'm going to change the fill color to a medium gray. And tap OK. And then area generic, tap on that symbol, and I'm going to change the fill color to a light pink. Once you're done, OK. So we've changed the symbols. If I went too quickly, pause it, go change your symbols, and then unpause it. Okay, the next step is to go in and turn off the fields that we don't want to use. If we go to light pole, we can right click on light pole and go to properties. And then we have quite a few tabs. There is a fields tab. If you notice, object ID and shape are checked. We have no control over those, so we want to uncheck those. And if you go down to the very bottom, average estimated accuracy and worst estimated accuracy, let's uncheck those. So the only thing that we're going to actually see in the field on our form is what we created in the geodatabase. I'm going to go ahead and say OK on this. Now we're going to go to point generic, right click in properties, or you can also double click. It's the same as right clicking and go into properties. Fields tab. Now on this one, I'm going to turn all fields off because we only want 2 fields. So instead of me clicking object ID, shape, average estimated accuracy, and worst estimated accuracy, I'm going to turn all fields off and then click comments, date collected. Save me 1 click. Go ahead and hit OK on this. Now you can right click and go to properties for sidewalk or double click. Uncheck the top ones, and then if you notice there's also a shape length. Average estimated accuracy and worst estimated accuracy is what you want to go ahead and uncheck. And then OK. Line generic, I'm going to come in and once again say turn all fields off. The little icon that looks like a piece of of paper that has 3 holes in it without any lines. Comments, date collected, OK. Now I'm going to go to parking lot, right click properties. I'm actually going to uncheck all of them as well, and then just go in and individually check the ones that I want. So I'm selecting everything from lot ID down to date collected. So if you notice, there are actually 6 fields that we're not going to be taking out in the field on our form. And this is really going to help the person who's entering in the data. They don't have to bounce over unnecessary fields. If they see something out in the field, they know they need to go ahead and enter it in. Okay, go ahead and tap OK. And now area generic. I'm once again going to say turn all fields off and just select comments and date collected. And OK. Go ahead and pause if you need to catch up. Okay, the last step is zooming into an area you want to collect. Right now we don't have any data. If you notice on my scale bar up here, it's at 1 to 421 million. If I was to do a checkout right now and go out in the field and collect data, all my points would look like they were right on top of each other because I would be zoomed out really far. If I zoom in closer whenever I collect data out in the field, I'll actually see my points. So if you take your mouse, just go and tap up in the scale bar and then type in the number 500 and hit the enter key. And you're going to go to 1 to 500. So you've now changed the scale. Our data is pretty much ready to be checked out using the Get Data for ArcPAD wizard. Okay? So we have let's do the session objectives recap. We have enabled the GPS Analyst extension ArcMap, added our data, symbolized the feature classes, turned off any unnecessary fields, and zoomed into the area we want to collect.